The girl was very afraid of zombies, but the real enemy turned out to be quite different. Hello all. This is Jacobson and this is a brief retelling of the 13th and 14th episodes of the 6th season of the zombie series The Walking Dead. You can see the previous episodes at the links in the video description. As soon as this video gets 300 likes, I will release the next part. Enjoy watching it.
An armed man ambushes Carol and Maggie, who are guarding the perimeter of the Savior's camp. Carol shoots him in the arm, but spares his life. 3 more rescuers run up and take Carol and Maggie hostage. Paula, one of the Saviors, the leader of her group, watches through binoculars as Rick's group beats up their comrade Prima. She calls Rick on the radio and informs him that Carol and Maggie are with her. Rick offers to trade Carol and Maggie for Prima. She tells Rick that she will contact him. Paula puts Maggie and Carol in the car and calls for reinforcements on the radio. Paul's group brings Maggie and Carol to the slaughterhouse, where they are gagged and tied up in a cell. Left alone, Maggie tries to cut her bonds, and Carol finds clear ones on the floor and pockets them. Paul's group returns to the cell. Carol is hyperventilating. Maggie is worried, not knowing if this is true or if Carol is faking it. At Maggie's insistence, the rescuers remove the gag from Carol and look at her with pity as she gasps and prays. Carol begs them not to harm Maggie and the baby and asks Molly, one of the rescuers, to refrain from smoking during pregnancy. Michelle, one of the other Saviors, unexpectedly supports Carol. Donnie, the Savior Carol injured in the woods, screams in pain and threatens to kill Carol. Paula orders him to keep Carol alive as insurance until reinforcements arrive in 30 minutes. Donnie hits the floor. Maggie trips him when he goes for Carol and they fight. Paula hits Donnie in the face with the butt of a pistol and instructs Michelle to interrogate Maggie in another room. During the interrogation, Michelle demands to name the location of their settlement, but Maggie refuses. In the other room, Carol thanks Paula for helping her and Maggie with Donnie. Paula instead calls Carol pathetic. Michelle wraps a bandage around one of her fingers and explains to Maggie that she, too, was once pregnant. Maggie apologizes to Michelle, but she rejects the apology. They both say that each of them does not plan to die today, to which Michelle replies that one of us is wrong, and then returns to the questions. Rick radioed Paula to ask if she had considered his offer of a hostage exchange. Paul postpones his decision and finishes the transfer. Carol explains to Paul that her group killed people at the outpost because the Saviors ambushed Daryl's group on the road, instilling in them fear of Negan. When Carol says they needed to stop Negan, Molly cryptically tells her that we are all Negan. Paula tells Kroll that her boss was the first person she killed after the fall. She says she stopped feeling bad about killing people when the number of corpses reached double digits. Carol accuses Paula of living among murderers, but Paula objects that Carol's people are also murderers, so Carol is also a murderer. After Carol tells Paula that she will die if she doesn't make the exchange, Paula eventually contacts Rick again by radio and asks him to meet her in a field nearby. After that, she worries that the lack of interference on the walkie-talkie means that Rick's group is already close, perhaps already outside the slaughterhouse. Paula contacts her reinforcements, which are only a few minutes away. She and Molly leave Carol alone in the cell. In their absence, Carol sharpens the crucifix on the rosary and uses it to free herself. Carol finds Maggie and suggests they quietly escape, but Maggie insists on killing the remaining Saviors, and they must finish what they started. They return to the cell and realize that Donnie died from a gunshot wound and begins to transform. Molly returns to the cell and is attacked and bitten by the transformed Donnie, whom Maggie has tied to a pipe at arm's length from the door. Maggie beats the wounded Molly to death, then Carol takes the gun from her, and they run away. A moment later, Paula discovers the corpses and pulls out a gun. Maggie and Carol find a corridor full of decapitated but living walkers designed to slow their progress or trap them. From behind, Paula shoots at them until she runs out of ammo. Carol points her gun at Paula and orders her to run, despite Maggie insisting that Carol kill Paula. The walker attacks, causing Carol to shoot Paul in the shoulder. Maggie kills the walker and then throws herself at Michelle. During the fight, Maggie slightly cuts Michelle's stomach with a knife, but Carol manages to shoot Michelle in the head and kill her. Maggie and Carol find a wounded Paula on the ground. Paula asks Carol what she is so afraid of if she is so capable. Carol replies that she was afraid she would have to kill her. Paula rushes at her, causing Carol to shove her into a prickly walker, which rips off part of Paula's face and begins to devour her. A few moments later, the savior calls Paula's walkie-talkie and informs her that reinforcements have arrived. Mimicking Paula's voice, Carol tells them to meet her on the murderer's floor. While Maggie and Carol are waiting for rescuers, Carol confesses that she killed 20 people. Maggie urges her not to think about it, but Carol says she can't. The rescuers arrive, and Carol and Maggie trap them on the floor for the murders, which they doused with gasoline. When the rescuers realize that they have been lured into a trap, Carol throws her lit cigarette into the room, causing the room to light up, and the rescuers find themselves inside. Maggie kills walkers, including Paula, while she and Carol make their way to the exit. Outside the door, they find Rick's group about to storm the building. While Maggie and Glenn reunite, Daryl and Carol embrace. Rick tells Prima that his friends are dead and asks if Negan was among those they killed at the compound. Prima says that he is Negan, and they have something to talk about. Rick, without regret, kills Prima at point-blank range with a shot to the head. A new day begins in Alexandria. Olivia opens the pantry and smiles, looking at the fully filled shelves. Gabriel walks through the territory with a rifle. Eugene, now with a ponytail, takes his new post at the entrance gate and nods to Sasha, who is standing guard on the platform. Morgan is doing Aikido alone, and nearby Carol is smoking on a swing by the porch. Morgan lays the last brick in the prison cell he built in the basement. Rick asks Morgan why he built the camera. "Next time you'll have a choice," Morgan replies. A new day begins. Olivia is taking inventory in the pantry. Gabriel is patrolling, and Eugene is taking over the post. Carol smokes on the porch swing and Tobin kisses Carol goodbye on the way to work. Rosita gets dressed in her bedroom while Spencer sleeps in her bed. She shakes her head as if she regrets what happened. Daryl rummages through the found motorcycle bag and finds a wooden figurine that Dee carved before stealing the motorcycle. Carol joins in and asks Daryl about his meeting in the burnt forest. "I should have killed them," he tells her. He then asks what the rescuers did to Carol and Maggie in captivity. "With us? They didn't do anything," she says. A new day begins. Denise stands on the guard platform, watching Abraham and Eugene leave the camp. Clutching a crumpled, yellowed page from the telephone directory in her hands, she draws attention to the walker who got into the Alexandria lattice with spikes. She looks at him as if she is preparing for something. Outside, Spencer offers to cook dinner for Rosita, but noticing her detachment, he asks if Rosita is interested in continuing their relationship at all. "Okay, we'll cook dinner," she says dismissively. After that, Denise asks Daryl and Rosita to take her to the nearest pharmacy, where there may be medicines. Daryl and Rosita ask Denise to stay, but she insists she is ready to go outside the walls and she is going, with or without them. The trio is driving down the road in an old truck. Denise mentions that her brother taught her to drive such trucks when she was little. The group meets a fallen tree on the road. Rosita reassures Daryl that it just fell and it wasn't put by people. The group is forced to continue on foot. Rosita suggests they turn off the road by walking along the railroad tracks, but Daryl insists on the road, telling her, "I will not go on any tracks." Denise follows Daryl, and Rosita walks the tracks alone. Abraham and Eugene are walking down an alley in a local town. Abraham notices that Eugene's mullet has turned into a ponytail. Moreover, he began to be on guard duty more often, knows how to use weapons and even flirts with women. "I'm a survivor," Eugene says, boasting about his ability to adapt. Rosita is waiting for Daryl and Denise after they rolled off the railroad. Denise apologizes to her for choosing Daryl over her. They get to the pharmacy, and Daryl opens the door. Meanwhile, Eugene takes Abraham to the industrial workshop. He suggests using equipment to produce bullets, believing that cartridges have a limited supply and will soon become the coin of the earth. Abraham is impressed by Eugene's ingenuity. A walker is approaching them. Eugene pulls out his machete, but the walker's head has been soaked in liquid metal, which has now hardened, and Eugene cannot pierce it. In the end, Abraham pierces the walker with a rebar. Enraged, Eugene insists that he could have killed him himself, and tells Abraham that his services are no longer required. Abraham leaves, telling Eugene to find his own way home. At the pharmacy, Daryl and Rosita raid the pharmacy shelves. Meanwhile, Denise finds a keychain with the name Dennis. Taking the keychain, Denise takes out a machete and goes into the back room, where she discovers a walker in a leg cast and the words hash written on the wall. She sees a child's shoe sticking out of the sink, filled with blood and dirt. Terrified, she runs out into the street. Denise is waiting outside and trying to hide her tears. Daryl gently praises her for finding the pharmacy. He correctly guesses that Dennis was Denise's brother, and she notes that he was her twin. She says Dennis was brave, but also evil. It was a dangerous combination. It looks like we had the same brother, Daryl replies. When they walk back, Daryl suggests that they go not along the road, but along the railway tracks. Not far from the tracks, Denise notices a refrigerator in the car where the walker lives. Ignoring Daryl and Rosita's warning, she goes to get the refrigerator. After an intense struggle, she single-handedly kills a walker and proudly shows off a can of orange soda that was in the refrigerator. Daryl reprimands her for risking her life for soda. Denise explains that it's not about soda. She came here to confront her fears. She explains that she asked Daryl to take her with him because he is brave, like her brother, and she feels safe with him. And she asked Rosita to join because she wants to help her cope with loneliness for the first time in her life. She tells Daryl and Rosita that they also need to sort out their problems. In the middle of the sentence, a crossbow bolt hits Denise's right eye from behind and kills her. Dwight, the savior who stole Daryl's motorcycle, appears out of the woods with Daryl's crossbow and a group of 12 armed saviors, and they have Eugene. Dwight, whose face is badly burned, orders Daryl to lead his group to their community. Noticing Abraham, Eugene shouts that they have a friend who is hiding behind barrels of oil, and then calls on Dwight to kill him first. When Dwight sends Neil to investigate, Eugene bites Dwight in the crotch. Moving from his position in the forest, Abraham opens fire. A shootout ensues, and Eugene gets caught in the crossfire. After Neil has 7 more saviors killed, Dwight retreats with his remaining men. After that, Rosita looks after Eugene in the infirmary. He soon comes to his senses and tells Abraham that he didn't try to kill him before. "I was just looking for our moment." Abraham apologizes for doubting his survival skills. Abraham, shocked by the events of the day, goes to Sasha's house. "You said I had a choice," he tells her on the porch. "You have one too." She invites him inside. Daryl and Carol are burying Denise. She watches as Daryl puts Dennis's keychain in his pocket and takes an angry sip of alcohol. "You were right," Carol says, referring to Daryl's regret that he left Dwight and Sherry alive. At his house, Tobin reads a note from Carol, in which she writes that she is leaving Alexandria. "I love you all here, I love you, and I would have to kill for you, and I can't, I won't," she writes. A new day is coming in Alexandria. Instead of Eugene, Rosita guards the entrance gate. Sasha looks at Rosita from his post on the platform as the city cars line up at the front gate. Several residents are rolling carts with weapons around the city. Morgan looks at Carol's porch and sees an empty swing.